It all starts with this 26-year-old woman. She's married, and, well, it seems like her husband's family is causing some serious waves in their relationship.
It sounds like a classic case of in-law interference, but there's a twist to this one.
Definitely a twist. So she starts off by explaining how her husband's family consistently refers to her as his best friend.
Okay, a little odd maybe, but families have their quirks, right? Like maybe it's just...
No, that's the thing. It's not just like a cute nickname or anything. They use it all the time. In casual conversation, formal introductions, you name it.
So they're using it in place of wife.
Exactly. Like they'll introduce her to people and say, this is Robbie's best friend.
Oh, I see where this is going. That's not just a quirk, that's a statement. And probably a very confusing one for the people they're talking to.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, she actually gave this example of how her mother-in-law introduced her as her son's best friend to a colleague at her work.
Oh, wow. So this is happening in professional settings, too. That's next level awkward.
Right. Can you imagine being introduced like that?
Yeah.
Especially at work.
It definitely adds a whole other layer to it because now it's not just a family dynamic. It has the potential to affect her professionally.
Absolutely. And to add insult to injury, she's brought it up to her in-laws, tried to tell them how it makes her feel, and they
dismiss her.
basically, yeah. She said one of them even responded with, well, you were best friends.
Oh, I bet that went over well. It's interesting to see how that kind of dismissive attitude plays out in the comments, though. People tend to be very vocal when they see that kind of behavior. Did the commenters pick up on that?
Oh, absolutely. They had a lot to say about this, a lot of it unprintable, I'm sure.
Let's hear some of the printable stuff. Like, what were some of the comments saying?
Let's see, one of the top comments just straight up said, my ex-in-laws did this. They would also correct people if someone called me his wife. Like they were doubling down on it.
Wow, so this is something people have actually experienced. It's not just this isolated incident. That really puts it into perspective how deeply ingrained this kind of behavior can be in some families.
And it just gets wilder. I mean, there were tons of comments from people who had experienced something similar. Someone even said their in-laws referred to them as their spouse's friend for years until, get this, their spouse inherited a bunch of money. Suddenly they were the wife.
Oh, wow. Okay, that just adds a whole other layer of messed up to the whole thing. Talk about ulterior motives, right? Seriously, right. And then there's this other commenter who said that their mother-in-law does the same thing. Calls her single, and her husband, that guy.
Even after how long? They've been married a while.
10 years, 2 kids? Like, come on. It really makes you wonder what's going on in the minds of these in-laws,
Seriously. I mean, are they trying to undermine the relationship? Are they jealous? Is it a control thing? I have so many questions.
Me too. And the internet seems to agree this situation has everyone scratching their heads. Like, what's the goal here,
Right. Are they just clueless? Or is there something more calculated going on? Because you have to think about the impact this is having, not just on the wife, but on their perception in social situations.
Totally. It makes you wonder how people react when they're introduced to her as the best friend. Like, do they think it's weird? Do they question it?
She actually addressed that in the original post. Apparently, her husband's coworker, the one who got the best friend introduction, was visibly uncomfortable. Oh, no. I bet that was mortifying for everyone involved, except maybe the mother-in-law.
And it's interesting how that little detail about the coworker's reaction resonated with so many people in the comments. One commenter said something like, I would have crawled under a rock and died. And another one was just like, OMG, I would have corrected that so fast.
I mean, I probably would have too.
It's one of those things where you can just imagine the awkwardness, like what do you even say in that situation?
Right. It's like, do you correct them? Do you just go along with it? It's a lose-lose situation for sure.
Totally. And for the wife, it's got to feel like a constant undermining of her role in the relationship, like her in-laws aren't taking their marriage seriously.
Exactly. And it feeds into this whole narrative that's being perpetuated, even if it's unintentional.
And you have to wonder, like, how long has this been going on? Was it something they did even before the marriage?
Well, it turns out there's a whole lot more to this story, and it gets even crazier because the wife posted an update. And
oh, the update. This is where it gets really good. Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with the update.
So buckle up, because in the update, the wife shares that her husband, Robbie, finally decided to confront his family about the best friend thing.
Good for him. It's about time someone addressed the elephant in the room, right?
Right. But during the confrontation, something completely unexpected came to light. Like, we're talking jaw-dropping, unbelievable levels of messed up here.
Okay, you've got to give me something here. What was the big reveal?
Ready for this? Robbie's family admitted to having a secret bet going on about how long the marriage would last.
Wait, what? You mean like they were literally placing bets on whether or not their marriage would survive?
You got it. The mother-in-law put her money on less than a year. The sister-in-law went even shorter with 6 months. And the father-in-law, bless his heart, he was the only one who bet in their favor.
Wow, just wow. So not only are they not acknowledging the marriage publicly, but they were actively rooting against it behind the scenes.
It's wild, right? And it really puts that whole best friend label into a whole new light. Like, it's one thing to maybe have doubts about a relationship, but to actually put money on its demise?
Yeah, that's taking it to a whole other level. And it makes you wonder, like, what were their intentions all along? Were they trying to sabotage the relationship from the beginning?
And to think, all of this comes spilling out during what was probably a very tense and uncomfortable conversation.
It must have been incredibly awkward for everyone involved. Like, how do you even begin to unpack that kind of revelation?
Seriously. So how did everyone react?
Well, according to the update, Robbie was livid, like absolutely furious. And honestly, who could blame him, right?
No, I totally get it. To find out your own family is betting against your marriage. Talk about a punch in the gut.
Seriously, it's a huge betrayal of trust. And it seems like Robbie had had enough because he told his mother and sister that he was done. Like, no more contact.
Wow, that's a pretty extreme reaction. But I guess in a way, it's understandable given the circumstances.
Yeah, it's like that saying, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. Except in this case, he's choosing to create some distance from his family to protect himself and his marriage.
It makes you wonder, is there any coming back from something like that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can you forgive that kind of betrayal? And if so, can you ever truly forget it?
It's like, where do you even go from there? Is that it? Are the relationships just over?
It definitely doesn't bode well for those relationships, but I mean, it sounds like Robbie's father, at least, is trying to mend things a little bit. He did admit to the bet, but he also stood up for Robbie in the marriage, which I think speaks volumes, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like he's at least trying to be supportive.
And on that note, there were a ton of comments praising Robbie for taking a stand and choosing his wife over his family's drama.
Oh, I bet. I mean, that's a big decision to make, to essentially cut off contact with your own family.
Right. But as someone in the comments pointed out, sometimes it's the only way to protect yourself and your own well-being. Like, you can't control what other people do or say, but you can control how you react to it. You know, you can choose to walk away from toxic situations.
That's a good point. And it seems like a lot of people in the comments were echoing that sentiment. Like this idea that you get to choose your family, even if it's not the one you were born into.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Choosing the people who lift you up, who support you, who make you feel loved and accepted for who you are.
It's a good reminder for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
That sometimes you have to put yourself first and surround yourself with people who make you feel good. And on that note, any final thoughts for our listeners out there who might be dealing with some family drama of their own? What have we learned today?
Well, I guess if there's one takeaway from this whole roller coaster of a story, it's that communication is key. If something's bothering you, if someone's behavior is rubbing you the wrong way, don't be afraid to speak up like Robbie did. You never know, it might just save your relationship.
Wise words. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the depths of Reddit's relationship advice. Until next time, remember to be kind to yourselves, set those boundaries, and always choose love and support.